A lesson today in reaping what you sow for Donald Trump and his administration as the consequences of the trade war that Trump started became a little clearer today. We got news this morning that the economy shrank in the first quarter for the first time in 3 years, and that the decline in GDP was driven largely by surging imports from businesses trying to get ahead of Trump's tariffs. It's worth noting the first quarter of 2025 ended on March 31st. That's before Trump's much vaunted Liberation Day announcement. There are plenty of signs of economic pain ahead. NBC News reports that, quote, shipments to the West Coast ports are plunging, while price increases are expected to begin eating into sales data and incomes as heightened uncertainty freezes investment. Now, as for Donald Trump, the bad economic news has left him scrambling. Quote, this is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. I didn't take over until January 20th, Trump says on Truth Social, adding that this was just the Biden overhang. Again, that's probably not true. It was Trump's anticipated tariffs that led to a surge in imports that cut into economic growth, and Trump has been claiming credit for the stock market since at least early 2024. In fact, here's what he said on January 29th of 2024. Quote, this is the Trump stock market because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win. In an interview with ABC News last night, Trump claimed that the chaos he's caused with the economy is, in fact, what voters wanted.
People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said all these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period.
So here's the thing. NBC News could not find a time when Donald Trump spoke of a transition period caused by his tariffs during the 2024 campaign. What we did find, though, were repeated promises that prices would fall, some of them made immediately after Trump took office.
Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. From today and from the day I take the oath of office, we will rapidly drive prices down and make America affordable again. Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. We'll do that. We've got to bring it down. So when I win, I will immediately bring prices down.
As the Trump administration tries to avoid paying a political price for the tariffs, new reporting suggests that the consequences of the trade war could soon hit our store shelves. The New York Times reports, quote, U.S. retailers and manufacturers faced with sky-high tariffs on Chinese goods are pausing and reducing shipments from China. The pullback is expected to hit West Coast ports within days, end quote. And this is going to have a sort of knock-on effect. The Times adds, quote, moving fewer containers means not just less work for dock workers, but also subdued demand for trucking and warehouse jobs, end quote. The uncertainty caused by Trump isn't just a short-term issue. It's not just a matter of days and weeks. Businesses are finding it incredibly hard to plan ahead, and consumers may feel the impact months from now. The New York Times is warning of a crisis coming this Christmas, reporting that, quote, President Trump's China tariffs are threatening Christmas. Toy makers, children's shops, and specialty retailers are pausing orders for the winter holidays as the import taxes cascade through supply chains. Factories in China produce nearly 80% of all toys and 90% of Christmas goods sold in America. The alarm in the industry is palpable, with the companies predicting product shortages and higher prices, end quote. And that's where we start today with my friend, CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Liesman. Steve, good to see you. Look, we know that when you look at a GDP report, it's not typically an instant response to something that a president may have done. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes more than a year for policy to make its way through. But there's something else going on here. This is not just policy. There's some sentiment, and there's businesses confused about what to do, so behaving in a certain way.
Yeah, so Ali, I've been evaluating presidential economic outcomes for 20 years. What I normally do is I discount the first 6 months and really attribute it to the prior person. That's a normal course of action because a president gets into office. They don't have time to do much in terms of having an effect on the economy. This one is very different. And the lines are drawn very solid. These are not dotted lines from Trump policies. These are solid lines from Trump policies to the stock market and to the GDP numbers. For example, today, as you noted, GDP was negative because of a surge of imports that happened, people to front run the tariffs. Another thing you may not know is that we've had a consumption bump as well because people bought cars ahead of the tariffs as well. So that's what's held up consumer spending despite the historic drop in consumer sentiment. What does this all mean? It means we're going to pay for it next quarter and the following quarter. So the import numbers will not be negative, but the consumption numbers might be. And then what's happening is in the third and fourth quarters of this year, that's when we think we're going to see the real sort of, what's the right word, unadulterated weakness that's been engendered by these tariffs.
What's the administration saying about this? They have people going out there trying to calm markets and calm Americans down about this, suggesting that something is in the offing. Do we know what that something might be?
Well, we hear a couple things. First of all, is that a deal is about to be done. You remember when the president said he had a concept of a plan for health care. He has a concept of a plan for, I guess, tariff agreements that are coming. And by the way, with countries that don't matter all that much, the ones that matter, as you point out, when it comes to toys. And by the way, toys for people who can't necessarily afford the most expensive toys. So you really take a lot of the joy out of Christmas for a lot of Americans when you make those products more expensive, or in this case, perhaps unavailable. So they say that there are deals coming on tariffs, and every day we get a little whisper of something like that. But also, as you pointed out, there's this idea of down the road, the golden ring. You reach it out for the golden ring, and that's going to happen later on, that there's all these benefits to come. The problem I have with that is, and I'd be happy, Ali, as you might expect, to report that if it was in, for example, an economic forecast or an economic briefing from the administration that laid it out. I don't really have anybody among the dozens of economists and forecasters who I cover that say all of this leads to some great point down the road. There is nobody who's saying to me that because of these tariffs, we're going to have higher employment, that because of these tariffs, we're going to have lower inflation or higher growth. That is just not in anybody's forecast. I'd be reporting the other side, Ali, but there doesn't appear to be one to report.